Have you ever eaten a bright blue muffin? No? Well, let me tell you. If you want to know what is really happening inside your body, you might want to start baking with blue dye. I am serious. It sounds like a prank, but it is actually one of the most cutting-edge scientific experiments you can do at home. It is called the Blue Poop Challenge. Basically, you eat a blue muffin, and then you wait. You watch the clock. You are measuring your gut transit time. How long does it take for food to go from your mouth to the other end? If it is under 14 hours, you might be rushing things. If it is over 48 hours, things are moving too slow. But the sweet spot? That tells us everything about the hidden universe living inside you. Welcome to the show. Today we are tearing up the rulebook on calories, diets, and everything you thought you knew about nutrition. We are diving into Food for Life by Tim Spector. And honestly, this book terrified me and thrilled me at the same time. It suggests that almost everything we have been told about food for the last 50 years is wrong.
It is not just wrong, Alex. It is outdated. We have been treating our bodies like simple machines, like cars where you just pour in fuel and expect it to run. But we are not cars. We are complex ecosystems. I love that you started with the Blue Muffin Challenge because that was a pivotal moment for Tim Spector, too. He is a professor of genetic epidemiology. He has looked at thousands of twins, and he realized that even identical twins, who share 100% of their genes, process food completely differently. One twin could eat a slice of pizza and their blood sugar stays flat. The other twin eats the exact same slice, and their blood sugar spikes through the roof. If genes are identical, what is different? The answer is the microbiome. This book is a manifesto for stopping the obsession with calories and starting an obsession with our gut microbes. We need to stop asking what we should eat to lose weight and start asking what we should eat to feed the trillions of microscopic creatures that actually run the show.
That is the part that blows my mind. We are outnumbered in our own bodies. The book says there are roughly as many bacterial cells as human cells in us. We are basically half human, half bug. And Spector uses this analogy of a garden. He says our gut is like a garden, and for years we have been neglecting the soil. We have been throwing processed chemicals on it, antibiotics, stress, and poor food choices. And then we wonder why weeds are growing or why the plants are dying. I have always thought of nutrition as math. Calories in versus calories out. If I eat 2,000 calories of celery or 2,000 calories of burger, energy-wise, it should be the same, right? That is the law of thermodynamics. But Spector says that is complete rubbish because our body is not a bomb calorimeter. It does not just burn food for heat, it extracts information. So, Sarah, break this down for me. Why is the calorie count on the back of a packet basically a lie?
Let us look at the humble apple. If you look at a food label for an apple, if it had one, it would say it contains sugar, water, and fiber. Maybe 50 calories. But that label is ignoring the 26,000 distinct chemical compounds in that apple. We only track about 150 nutrients in our databases. The rest, we barely know what they do. When you eat that apple whole, the sugar is trapped inside cell walls made of fiber. Your body has to work to break those walls down. It reaches your lower intestine, where your microbes feast on it. Now, take that same apple and puree it into a smoothie or a juice. You have mechanically smashed those cell walls. The sugar hits your bloodstream instantly. You get a glucose spike, an insulin crash, and your hungry microbes down in the colon get nothing. It is the same number of calories on paper, but a completely different hormonal and metabolic event in your body. We have been obsessed with the macronutrients, the fat, protein, and carbs, and we have ignored the food matrix, the physical structure of the food itself.
The food matrix. It sounds like a sci-fi movie, but it makes sense. It is not just what you eat, it is the structure of it. But let us talk about what we should be eating. Spector drops a number in the book that feels impossible. He says the single best predictor of a healthy gut is the number of different plant species you eat per week. And the magic number is 30. 30 different plants a week. When I first read that, I looked at my lunch. I had a sandwich. That is wheat. Maybe some lettuce, maybe a tomato. That is 3. I am failing miserably. How is a normal person supposed to hit 30 plants a week without spending their entire life in the grocery store? And does it have to be piles of kale? Because if so, I am out. I can't do that much chewing. But he counts things I did not expect as plants. Coffee beans, spices, do those really count towards this diversity goal?
They absolutely count. And this is the good news. It is easier than you think. A plant is not just a vegetable. It is a fruit, a nut, a seed, a herb, a spice, a grain. If you put a sprinkle of mixed seeds on your yogurt, that could be 4 plants right there. Pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, flax, chia. If you cook a curry, the turmeric, the cumin, the coriander, the garlic, the onion, those all count. The reason 30 is the magic number is because different microbes like different foods. Some microbes love the fiber in artichokes. Others thrive on the polyphenols in berries. Others need the specific starches in lentils. If you only eat the same 5 vegetables every week, you are starving the microbes that don't like those 5 vegetables. You get a monoculture in your gut. We want a rainforest. Diversity in the diet leads to diversity in the microbiome, and diversity in the microbiome is linked to a stronger immune system, better mental health, and better weight control. It is about abundance, not restriction.
Okay, so I need to spice up my life, literally. But let us pivot to the things we have been told are healthy that might not be. The book goes hard on the vitamin industry. I grew up thinking that if I felt a cold coming on, I chug massive amounts of vitamin C, or that I should take a multivitamin just in case, like an insurance policy. Spector basically calls this expensive urine. He says most of these supplements do absolutely nothing for healthy people, and in some cases can actually be harmful. There was that massive study mentioned where they looked at people taking supplements to prevent COVID, and zinc and vitamin C did zero, nothing. The only thing that had a tiny effect was probiotics in women. Why are we so obsessed with isolating these chemicals? Why do we think a pill of vitamin C is the same as eating an orange? Is it that reductionist mindset again?
It is exactly that reductionist mindset. We discovered vitamin C prevents scurvy, so we assumed more vitamin C prevents everything. But biology is not linear. Taking megadoses of a single nutrient confuses the body. In nature, you never find vitamin C isolated. It comes packaged with fiber, with water, and crucially, with polyphenols. Polyphenols are these defense chemicals plants produce to protect themselves from the sun or insects. When we eat them, they act like rocket fuel for our good bacteria. A pill does not have that. Spector points out that high doses of antioxidants can actually block the body's natural signaling systems. We need a little bit of stress and oxidation to trigger our repair mechanisms. If you suppress all of that with artificial supplements, you might be weakening your body's ability to heal itself. The only supplement he really gives a pass to is vitamin D in winter for people who live in dark climates. And even then, he says food sources like mushrooms and oily fish are better.
Speaking of things that are not what they seem, let us talk about the villain of the book. Ultra-processed foods, or UPFs. Now, I thought I knew what processed food was, a microwave dinner, right? But Spector says it goes way deeper. It is about the industrial formulation. He uses Pringles as an example. He calls them potato discs because they are barely potatoes. They are a slurry of potato flour, rice, wheat, and corn pressed into a shape, fried, and sprayed with flavor. It is engineering, not cooking. And the scary part is the bliss point. These companies hire scientists to calculate the exact ratio of salt, sugar, and fat that overrides our brain's stop signal. I can eat a whole tube of Pringles and not feel full. In fact, I feel hungry for more. If I ate a plain boiled potato, I would be full after 2. What is happening in the brain there? Why does our biology fail us when we face a Dorito?
It is a biological hijack. In nature, you never find high fat and high sugar combined perfectly with a crunch and melt in the mouth texture. It does not exist. So when we encounter it, our evolutionary brain thinks we have hit the jackpot and screams, "Eat it all because winter might be coming." But winter never comes, just diabetes. The problem with UPFs is not just the nutrient profile, it is what they lack. They lack fiber. They lack structure. You eat them too fast. This speed of eating is crucial. When you chew a real carrot, it takes time. That time allows hormones like leptin to travel from your gut to your brain to say, "I am full." When you inhale a soft, ultra-processed burger bun or a handful of crisps, the calories are in your system before the signal has even left the starting line. Plus, the emulsifiers and preservatives in these foods act like detergents in the gut, stripping away the mucus layer that protects our intestinal wall. It is a double whammy of overeating and gut inflammation.
That is terrifying. The idea that emulsifiers act like soap in our gut. I will never look at a long shelf life mayonnaise the same way again. But the book also attacks the healthy alternatives. The free from aisle. Gluten-free, fat-free, sugar-free. We see gluten-free and we think health. But Spector points out that to make a cookie gluten-free, they have to replace the wheat with something else. Usually, that is potato starch, tapioca flour, rice flour, and a bunch of gums like xanthan gum to make it stick together. So you end up with a product that is even more processed, has less fiber, and spikes your blood sugar even faster than the regular version. It is the health halo effect. We see the label and we switch off our critical thinking. He even mentions that the artificial sweeteners used in diet sodas and sugar-free treats might be making us glucose intolerant by messing with our microbes. So a Diet Coke might actually be worse for your metabolism than a regular one?
The evidence on artificial sweeteners is really shifting. We used to think they were inert, they pass through, provide sweetness, and leave. But they don't leave without a trace. They interact with the microbiome. Some studies suggest they can change the composition of bacteria in a way that makes us more prone to insulin resistance, which is exactly what you are trying to avoid by drinking a diet soda. It keeps your palate expecting extreme sweetness, so you never learn to appreciate the subtle sweetness of a carrot or a berry. But I want to touch on the gluten thing you mentioned. Unless you have celiac disease, which is about 1% of the population, or a genuine sensitivity, gluten is not the enemy. The enemy is usually the quality of the bread. A slice of industrial white sliced bread is a UPF. It is fermented for 20 minutes. A real sourdough is fermented for 24 hours. That long fermentation allows the bacteria to break down the gluten and the carbohydrates, making it much easier to digest. It is not the grain, it is the process.
Fermentation seems to be the hero of this story. We talked about sourdough, but Spector calls them the 4 Ks: kefir, kombucha, kimchi, and kraut. These are foods that are literally alive. I tried making sourdough during the lockdown like everyone else, and it was a disaster. But I have started buying kimchi. The idea is that we are introducing reinforcements to our gut army, right? These are probiotics. But the book says we also need prebiotics. I always get these mixed up. Probiotics are the bugs. Prebiotics are the food for the bugs. So if I eat a bowl of yogurt, that is the bugs. If I eat a leek or an onion, that is the food for the bugs. Do we really need to be eating rotting cabbage to be healthy? Is there no other way? Because, let's be honest, the smell of kimchi in the fridge is distinct.
It is distinct, but it is delicious once you get used to it. And yes, it is essential. Fermented foods do something pills cannot. They provide a complex community of bacteria, not just one strain. But more importantly, fermentation creates postbiotics. These are beneficial chemicals created during the fermentation process that reduce inflammation and help our immune system. You mentioned the immune system earlier. 70% of our immune cells are located in the gut lining. If your gut lining is inflamed because of a bad diet, your immune system is on high alert, constantly stressed. This chronic inflammation is linked to heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and even depression. So yes, eating the rotting cabbage is actually calming down your immune system. It is teaching your body to tolerate the world. And you don't need a bucket of it. A small forkful a day is enough to have an effect.
Okay, small forkfuls. I can handle that. Now, let us zoom out from our own bodies to the planet. There is a heavy chapter in the book about the environmental cost of our food. And look, I like a steak, but the data Spector presents is pretty damning. He says beef is something like 70 times worse for the planet than soy protein, but he also nuances it. He says not all meat is created equal, and not all plants are innocent. Almond milk, for example. It kills bees and uses oceans of water. So if I swap my cow milk for almond milk, am I actually helping? And fish, we are told to eat fish for omega-3 seconds, but our oceans are being emptied. It feels like every choice has a downside. How do we navigate the ethics of this without starving?
It is complex, but the general direction is clear. Fewer animal products, more plants. You don't have to go full vegan to make a massive difference. Spectre suggests treating meat like a luxury or a side dish, not the main event. If you eat beef, choose pasture-fed because the carbon footprint is lower than industrial feedlot beef. Regarding fish, farmed fish is now the majority of what we eat, but it has issues with pollution and lice. Wild fish stocks are collapsing. His advice is interesting. Eat the small fish. Anchovies, sardines, mackerel, they are lower in the food chain, so they reproduce faster and have fewer heavy metals like mercury. And for the plant milks, oat milk or soy milk are generally better environmentally than almond. But ultimately, the best thing for the planet is reducing waste. We throw away a third of the food we produce. That is the biggest crime. If you buy a vegetable, use it all. Make soup. Ferment it. Freeze it.
Freezing! That is another myth busted. I always thought fresh is best. If it is not fresh, it is garbage. But the book points out that fresh green beans in the supermarket might have been picked 2 weeks ago, flown across the world, and lost half their nutrients sitting in a truck. Meanwhile, a frozen pea was picked and frozen within 2 hours, locking in the vitamins. Canned tomatoes often have more lycopene, that good antioxidant, than fresh tomatoes because the cooking process releases it. This makes healthy eating feel a lot cheaper and more accessible. I do not need to buy the hand-massaged kale from the farmer's market every day. I can have a freezer full of veggies and a cupboard full of beans and still hit that 30-plant goal. That is a relief.
Absolutely. Accessibility is key. We cannot be food snobs if we want to improve public health. The goal is to get the diversity in however you can. Spectre also talks about the order in which we eat food. This was a hack I loved. If you eat your fiber and protein first, like having the broccoli or the chickpeas before you touch the white rice, you create a mesh in your stomach that slows down the absorption of the sugars. It flattens the glucose spike, so you can still eat the foods you love, just change the sequence. It is these small, non-restrictive changes that actually stick. We are not talking about a diet here. Diets fail. We are talking about a lifestyle of feeding your inner garden. Trust your gut transit time, eat the rainbow, and stop fearing natural fat while ignoring industrial starch.
So, to wrap this up, let's create a cheat sheet for our listeners. We are throwing out the calorie counters. We are ignoring the low-fat and gluten-free marketing hype on the front of the box. We are looking at the back ingredients list. If it has 15 ingredients and you can't pronounce them, it is a UPF, put it back. We are aiming for 30 plants a week, which includes nuts, seeds, and spices. We are trying to eat fermented foods regularly, and we are treating meat as a treat, not a staple. Oh, and we are timing our digestion with blue muffins. Did I miss anything?
You nailed it. The main takeaway is that food is information. Every bite you take sends a signal to your body and your microbes. You can send a signal of inflammation and confusion with ultra-processed foods, or you can send a signal of resilience and vitality with whole plants and fermented foods. It is not about being perfect. It is about the overall trend. And trust your own body. If a food makes you feel bloated and tired, listen to that. You are unique. Your microbiome is like a fingerprint. No one else has yours. So, experiment, be curious, and remember that eating well is the single most powerful thing you can do for your long-term health. Food really is for life.